Commissioner McConnell, we've got to get you a background that's in keeping with the current season out there.
Okay, we're live.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the January 11th, 2021 regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order. First up on our agenda is public remarks. We will have 2 opportunities for public remarks tonight. If you are in the Zoom meeting as an attendee, then you can use the raise hand feature to indicate that you'd like to speak at public remarks. And if you are at home, you can give us a phone call at 517-349-1232. A quick reminder that you do have 3 minutes to speak at public remarks. And we would ask that you please give us your name and address at the beginning of your remarks so that we can so note in the record. Once again, two opportunities for public remarks right now and at the conclusion of the meeting. So with that, we will go ahead and give an opportunity for the public to call us or raise their hand. Don't see any raised hands. Do we have anyone on the phones?
You have no callers at this time, sir.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll close public remarks and we'll move on to our third agenda item, which is approval of the agenda. Do we have any motions on the agenda? Commissioner Cordell.
I move that we approve the agenda as
Do we have a
written.
second? Seconded by Commissioner McConnell. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the agenda passes. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have one set of meeting minutes from our December 14th, 2020 regular meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Commissioner Primo. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Bloomer. Any discussion on the minutes from the December 14th meeting? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of approval of the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. We'll move then through our agenda through item number 5, communications, we have none. Item number 6, public hearings, we have none. So we move then to unfinished business. And our first order of unfinished business this evening is the election of officers. So Peter was kind enough to give us a little rundown in our packets. This is an obligation for us for our first meeting of the year to elect a new group of officers. Currently, I'm serving as chair, Commissioner Trezise as vice chair, and Commissioner Richards, who is not here, perhaps in an attempt not to be our secretary, is our current secretary. So at this time, we can open to discussion or nominations, whatever we so choose. So I'll open the floor to anyone who wishes to be acknowledged, unless Peter, you want to add anything to that? No. All right.
No, I'll just take notes and I'll mark whoever the nominations are.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed that just now. My sound failed for a second.
Oh, we're looking for discussion or nominations for officers for the 2021 Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Just so you know, as I noted in the memo, the current slate.
I would nominate Scott Henderson.
Okay.
Sorry, you cut out there, Commissioner Trezise.
Yeah, my sound's in and out too, just like Mark's. My motion is to nominate you as chair continuing.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And just as a matter of course, I think it's prudent to mention that I will accept that nomination if it's so given. So thank you for that. Commissioner Primo.
Technically, you should not be presiding over your election.
I'm happy to pass the gavel to Commissioner Trezise for the vote, if that's appropriate. I'll not preside over that. Thank you. And we need to create a spot of parliamentarian for Commissioner Primo, I think.
Is there any discussion or other nominations for the position of chair? I don't see a groundswell of interest. So I will close the nominations and ask to vote. All in favor of continuing Mr. Hendrickson as chair of the Planning Commission? Did I cut out again?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
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 I would say that Mr. Hendrickson is successfully elected.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the
Ms. Snyder.
confidence. So then we'll
I'm gonna
move
have to go
on.
to my-
Uh-oh. Is it my end or is it you guys? I'm sorry. Okay,
I am also hearing,
It may be everybody.
it's not just you.
okay. So then we'll move on, if you can all hear me, to nominations for the position of vice chair. Do we have any nominations? Commissioner Cordell.
I move that Peter Trezise to vice chair.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Seconded by Commissioner Bloomer. Commissioner Trezise, would you accept the nomination? You might have to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down because your audio is cutting out again.
I will.
hard to get good help nowadays.
I will.
Okay, that sounds like a will. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll close the floor for nominations. And all those in favor of Commissioner Trezise as vice chair, say aye.
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 Did we have a support for that one? I didn't hear it.
We did.
Mr. Bloomer.
Commissioner Bloomer, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any opposed? All right, welcome back, Commissioner Trezise, Vice Chair Trezise, I should say. So now we then move on to the position of secretary. Do we have any nominations for secretary of the Planning Commission? Or any volunteers?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did Commissioner Richards leave any comments one way or the other, whether he would accept or was not interested?
Not to me, no, sorry.
Yeah, I've had no communication with him.
I have a question about the specific role of the secretary, given that staff takes the minutes of the meeting and seems to perform most of the official duties. What is the official function of, I should know this after being on the board for several years, but.
The really only official per state statute responsibilities are, there's some signature requirements related to the master plan. But that's it. I mean, you're not in succession to take over the vice chair position or anything.
I know that we have Commissioner Cordell's signature from when she was the secretary on the master plan, so I confirm that. And I don't believe that there was much else, as Peter mentioned, in the bylaws that would suggest much of a larger role. Mostly it's transmission of the master plan to all the various places.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cordell.
Oh, I was just going to say, since when I served as secretary, we were working on our master plan, and a lot of it was notification that we were undertaking that project. I think there were about 60 different agencies and units of government that are notified when a community is updating or revising, creating a master plan.
So Commissioner Cordell signed her name a lot or bought a house.
Yes.
We're not quite sure.
Yeah. Otherwise,
All right.
it's pretty quiet.
Any nominations then?
Well, I would nominate Commissioner Richards.
Okay, any second for that nomination?
Sure.
Seconded by Commissioner McConnell. So I'm not sure how this works because he's not here to tell us whether or not he would accept the nomination. I suppose we could confirm him in absentia, and hopefully he doesn't complain when he gets back.
We could record in the minutes. That'll teach him.
So noted. Show up to the first meeting unless you want to get appointed for something. All right. All those in favor of, is there any other nominations, I should say? Seeing none, we'll close the floor to nominations. All those in favor of Commissioner Richards as secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Commissioner Richards is reelected as secretary of the Planning Commission. All right, we'll move on now then to item 7B, which is Zoning Board of Appeals and Commission Liaison Assignments. So we have two orders of business here. The first is an official motion to nominate someone to the Zoning Board of Appeals to be our representative. And the rest, I don't know if it requires an actual motion and passage or just discussion and assignments. I think it's the latter.
It's the latter, yeah. They're unofficial assignments, really just to keep the Planning Commission informed about what's going on in other commissions, and they can change throughout the year if necessary.
Okay. So the one thing I noted as I was looking through the liaison positions is that Commissioner Trezise is on several. And that was probably partly out of necessity since we were ebbing and flowing with members coming and going across last year. I don't know if he's interested in continuing on in several of those liaisons or if he'd be willing to let someone else take one of them perhaps.
Well, I'm willing to surrender either or both.
Okay.
I do enjoy going to the DDA meetings. I have only recently gone to the EDC meetings, so I don't have a lot of experience there, but those are the two commitments I've been for the last few months.
Okay. So I guess with knowing that, we'll go ahead and we'll start up at the top of the memo and we'll look at the Zoning Board of Appeals and then we'll come to oh, sorry, Peter.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to at least tell everybody, if you aren't aware already, when these folks meet, it might matter in terms of your commitment to doing it. The DDA meets on a Monday. I think is it the first Monday of the month, Mark, at 7:30 a.m. on Zoom, and then the EDC is the first Thursday of the month, and they're also at 7:30 a.m. Environmental Commission, I believe, is the first Wednesday. Are they 6:30, Bill?
Or at 7.
7?
All right, I've got the list here. I can run down too.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. The CIA, the Corridor Improvement Authority, is the fourth Wednesday of the month at 6. Environmental, you said, is first Wednesday of the month at 7. Transportation, which Commissioner Richards is currently on, is the third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. And the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, which Commissioner Primo is on demand. Did I read that right? Oh,
They are the third Thursday at 8 a.m.
Third Thursday at 8.
Yeah, looks like I didn't include them. I must have skipped
Peter,
them, sorry.
Peter, I have a quick question on that. I was notified that I was supposed to come to be sworn in, and I called and said that I'm not currently going out. So they said they would call me and set up something virtual, and I've never heard back. So technically, I'm not sworn in.
Is this in relation to your role as on the Planning Commission?
No, Brownfield.
But you were sworn in once, right?
Pardon me?
You were sworn in once, a while ago.
I don't remember that I was.
I think it's enough to be sworn in. You were sworn in as a planning commissioner. I don't know who contacted you.
The secretary.
I'll follow up with them. We've had a change in staff in our clerk's office, and I'll follow up with them.
Okay, thank you. And I would be happy to continue that role.
Okay. All right, so let's take it back to the top here. We'll start with the Zoning Board of Appeals, as that's the one that requires an actual motion. I currently serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm happy to continue on if that's the sense of the Planning Commission, or if someone else would really like it. It is absolutely an experience, and one that I have learned a lot from. So if anyone else would like to do it, you're more than welcome to. I'm happy to pass the baton. Otherwise, if you'd rather, I'm happy to stay on as well.
Commissioner Tresice chairing this portion of the meeting.
He certainly can, unless he wants to do it. I'm happy to hand the gavel over to Commissioner Tresice as well.
I'd like to make a motion that Commissioner Hendrickson continue in his role as a affiliate to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I don't know if you're looking, I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations for the zoning board representative from Planning Commission? Any discussion? Then all those in favor of continuing with Chair Hendrickson on the Zoning Board of Appeals signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Mr. Hendrickson, you win another one tonight.
2 for 2. Thank you. All righty. So then let's go ahead and get everyone assigned to their various commission liaison appointments. So I heard from Commissioner Primo that he was interested in staying on the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Does anyone else wish to absolutely stay on their assignment? Commissioner McConnell, I assume that you do, but I don't want to make that full assumption without asking you, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that makes most sense.
Okay. That makes some sense to me as well, since that's.
But if somebody else also wants to come along the Environmental Commission meetings, that's great too. You know, bring it on.
Yeah, certainly don't mind, since we're going to have fewer available liaison posts than commissioners. I think it might be good to have everyone jump in somewhere, even if you are extra to the actual liaison process, just to learn and hear about what's going on. That's always helpful. And also, if someone's not able to make a meeting, then we'll have backup. Anyone else? Mark, you have something to add?
I did speak to Commissioner Richards last month, because we did have a Transportation Commission meeting, and he did say that he would like to be replaced if possible.
Oh, okay. Very good. Does anyone have any interest in being the Planning Commission liaison to the Transportation Commission?
I do attend those whenever I can, so if nobody else would like the role, I'm happy to report from there as well.
Okay. Any of our newer members interested in doing that as well? I know we've got a couple of, or Commissioner Shrewsbury, you are without a liaison.
I wanted to say, I'm not volunteering. My professional work responsibilities really make participation in meetings at the times that these are offered difficult. And so I don't want anyone to think that I'm shirking my responsibilities as a planning commissioner, but it would really be, I think, inappropriate for me to volunteer, knowing that probably most of the time I would have to bow out of a meeting because I have other obligations. So I am more than happy and very grateful to my other fellow commissioners who are taking up this responsibility. you know, I'm very interested and I appreciate the reports, but I just assume not have an assignment unless absolutely necessary, because I just don't think I could do it justice. So thank you to those of you who are. That was all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yes. Commissioner Bloomer or Snyder, any liaison appointments you'd be interested in over the others?
If I could just kind
Yes,
of,
Commissioner Snyder.
thank you. If I could just add on to what Commissioner Shrewsbury was saying, same kind of for me, the morning meetings would be pretty much impossible with my professional schedule. But I'd be interested in serving on any of the in any capacity that has evening meetings. Those are more doable for me. So I know you were, I think somebody was running through the times that these are held, but I didn't get a chance to jot them down. So, but the evening ones, if you could flag those for me.
Yep. So evening would be Transportation Corridor Improvement Authority, and that appears to be it, actually.
Okay. Okay.
So there is an opening on transportation if you're interested in taking that.
And those meetings, I don't believe have ever been monthly. Is that right, Mark?
Correct. In fact, this year, because of virtual meetings, the Transportation Commission moved their time to 7 p.m. from 6 to 7.
Oh. All right.
And those are monthly on what day of the week?
They meet once a month. Well, I shouldn't say that. They meet every other month, starting in January. The 21st is their first meeting, and it's typically the third Thursday.
Okay, so it's every other month and it's the third Thursday.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I can manage that if I know nobody really knows me on the commission, but I think I can handle that.
Well, they will. Commissioner Bloomer.
I have to ask Peter Tresize. I would be interested in participating in the Downtown Development Authority, but he mentioned that he enjoys going to those meetings. I don't want to take that away from him if he likes it.
You won't hurt my feelings, Mr. Bloomer.
Okay.
Then I will.
It is an interesting process. It's very, I don't say entertaining, but it's educational, and it's nice to see what's going on through that organization. So, but if you have a desire, you're welcome to it.
Then I will volunteer for that position. What are they meeting scheduled?
7:30 a.m. on Mondays, once a month.
First Monday of the month, it looks like, or every other month. All right, so everyone else happy with their assignments, where they're at? Okay, so let's just we'll run down this one more time. We've got Commissioner Cordo with the Corridor Improvement Authority. We've got Commissioner Bloomer with the Downtown Development Authority. We've got Commissioner McConnell on the Environmental Commission, Commissioner Tresize on the Economic Development Corporation, Commissioner Snyder on Transportation, and Commissioner Primo on the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Everyone got their assignments. All right. Thank you all then. We will move on to 2021 Planning Commission goals. So as you may remember, we punted on this at the last meeting because the MEPD ordinance review took quite a while. So we are back to setting some 2021 goals as a group. Peter was kind enough to provide us with our 2020 goals. So I thought it would be helpful to go through and take a peek at what we were able to accomplish in 2020 as it related to progress against those goals, which is going to be a relatively short discussion, as thanks to the pandemic, we lost a few months, but we did make progress on the form-based code ordinance in the Grand River Avenue corridor. Our intended completion date was April 30th. Obviously, we missed that. But after the conversation with the board in February, when we came back from our hiatus, we were able to make progress on getting a draft form-based code ordinance together. And we did just present that to the board earlier this month, which we will talk about in a little bit at the Township Board update. So we did make some progress on that. Addressing the revisions to the zoning ordinance and zoning map with action plan on page 15 of the master plan. I'm not even sure I remember what that one was about, if I'm being honest. But I don't believe we took any action to make revisions to the zoning ordinance. So we're going to say we did not accomplish that one. Update the mixed use plan development ordinance, however, identifying issues. While we didn't finish it, it sounds like the subcommittee made quite a bit of progress in Q4 of last year. And we're looking to make some more progress as the month wears on here. So hopefully we'll be able to get that done. Completing a plan for review and updating of the master plan in 2020. That was a bit ambitious. So we did not make any strides on that. And revise the sign ordinance so that it's content neutral, identifying issues. And obviously that one got pushed as well. So we need to get some goals for this year. The good news, of course, with not fully finishing our goals from last year is that we could move some of them forward to 2021 if we're so inclined. But we're certainly happy to open the discussion up and talk through what, if any, new goals the other commissioners have for the Planning Commission in 2021. So with that sort of as a primer, do we have anyone who'd like to talk about some goals that they'd like to see us tackle in 2021?
Real quick, I just want to point out, looks like I recycled the wrong memo in our packet from this week, so just ignore the references to 2020, but all the goals are correct that were adopted last year.
Thank you. Commissioner Primo.
I think we should probably complete the work on the mixed use plan unit development. So I would say the goal should be to complete that work on the revision.
Okay. I agree, that makes sense. Since we're doing it anyway, we might as well goal ourselves on it. Any other thoughts?
Can you remind?
Commissioner McConnell.
Well, first I was going to commend the chair for an excellent presentation of Township Board on the whole form-based code. That was very cogent and fantastic.
Thank you. Did you have a goal in mind as well?
Not at this point.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Suggested goals? Commissioner Trezise.
I really think we ought to get into the sign ordinance this year. It could be rather detailed, and we're running a few years behind some of the court cases that are controlling it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll point out too, and I was going to mention this in the liaison reports, but the Zoning Board of Appeals has, over the course of the last few months, had a number of sign-related cases, and they're getting to the point where there are enough that they think we probably should have an ordinance change that's even more broad than simply making the sign ordinance content neutral. So it might be a good opportunity to review what they're seeing as well if we tackle that this year. Commissioner Primo?
My observation is that if you want to get something done on a goal like that, that we do better if we appoint or get volunteers for a subcommittee to work with Peter. That typically ensures that it happens.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. So let's confirm the goals first, and then we'll try to get volunteers for the subcommittees as needed.
Can I ask Mr. Menzer to explain what 1B was? The section 15, is that the part where we're going through the planning map and determining what was inconsistent with current use?
No, that was part of the other goal. Let me pull up the master plan real quick.
I've
It'll just
got
take a
it
second.
up now, but I can't share it because I'm on my iPad.
Yeah, I won't be able to share it either, but I can read it.
Yeah, there are like 6 or 7 bullets of different things that needed to be looked at on the revisions to the zoning ordinance and map that were recommended in the master plan.
Sherry,
Yeah, they-
thanks,
The
Peter.
form-based code is one of them. And simplifying. You want me to go, Peter, or do you want to staff be the official person?
It's up to you. I've got them too.
Okay, go ahead. I'll let you because you probably have more context than I would.
So there were recommendations for revisions to the zoning ordinance and map. So it was a new zoning district that incorporates form-based regulations, should be created for mixed-use core areas. The commercial districts should be simplified and consolidated. 9, our single-family zoning districts should be simplified and consolidated. Our 4 multiple family districts should be simplified and consolidated. Regulatory standards for inclusionary zoning for affordable housing, accessory dwelling units should be pursued, which is something we talked about a couple years ago, actually. Regulatory standards for the preservation of land outside the urban service boundary should be established. And then the 3 PUD districts, which would be MUPUD, CPUD, and just PUD, need to be simplified and consolidated. So simply said, harder to accomplish.
Fix
Yeah, there's a
everything.
lot of stuff there.
It's revise the zoning ordinance.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be 4 years worth of goals in one sub bullet point, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Ambitious.
And the clerk's office is currently doing some consolidation of the code?
No, what they're doing right now is going through and catching up on ordinances that weren't published or put not only in our ordinance, but also added to the website. Because there was a real big gap in ordinances that weren't added to the book the way they should have been after adoption. So they're tackling that right now, along with Mark and I.
Commissioner Shrewsbury, you got your hand up?
Yeah, just a question on sort of consideration of that piece of this recommendation makes me wonder if we're going to be also keeping the plan to revise the master plan. If we've sort of gotten past this and we should be considering those in the consideration of an updated master plan at some point. We're getting sort of to the point where that might just be wrapped into this because those are very complicated issues. So I'm not sure standalone that we might want to tackle pieces of them, but not all of those things, absent the bigger discussion.
Yes, Peter.
I had one wish to grant for this particular topic on the master plan. It would be to tackle, or at least begin tackling, future land use map, because that in and of itself is going to be a lot of work, but it's probably easier than tackling the aforementioned zoning ordinance updates. So if we could get through this year doing future land use map, it would be a lot easier to tackle the rest of the master plan next year, for what it's worth.
Yeah. And would that be, sorry, not having been around at the last time this was done, would that be an effort that the Planning Commission takes on its own, or would that be a joint effort?
I wasn't too involved either. We had a staffer that led that charge last time. I think that it would behoove the Planning Commission to, I think, definitely get some feedback from outside, but maybe get your own opinions first and then seek feedback from others.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Richards, welcome. Congratulations on being nominated and approved as our secretary for 2021. So you got that position once again.
Okay.
So yeah, I agree that we need to probably get started on the master plan as a goal for this year. What area we start in, I think the future land use map makes sense as a good place to start. I think getting bogged down in a bunch of different ordinance changes would be tricky, especially given that we're already looking at 2 other ordinances this year in the sign ordinance and the MUPUD. So if that's the sense of the Planning Commission, that'd be where I would head also. Any thoughts?
I live and breathe land use maps, so I totally like starting there.
Okay. Commissioner Cordell?
I think this is more than plenty to tackle, and I would take Peter's recommendation to begin with the flum.
Okay.
I also think that those 3 goals are probably plenty for the year. If we get those done, that would be good. Since this is the 3rd or 4th year I've gone through this, and typically when we get to this discussion, we discover that 75% of the goals we set, we didn't deal with. So that's probably a high number, but I think if we focus on those 3, we've got 1 subcommittee, form 2 more, and go from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's the only other thing I would I think try to talk about a little bit is that while we made a lot of progress on the form-based code discussion in the last year and really the year before, we're at a point now where I think the direction of the board is going to be to have additional what we presented the other day was a recommendation that they either have a joint meeting or have a subcommittee that involves both the planning commission and the board to get that draft ordinance that we've been working on to a more final state with them. Now, they haven't come back with the decision on which avenue they would have preferred to move with, but I think we probably should retain completion of the form-based code ordinance as a goal, just to make sure that we get that over the finish line. And it's something that's likely going to take up time, and we're likely going to need a subcommittee for that too. So it's worth having on, I think. Any objection to that? See some shaking heads. Be nice to get that one over the finish line. So by Commissioner Primo's math, we will get 1 of these 4 things done by the end of the year, if we're doing things like we have been in the past. So I guess we'll just talk through the 4 things one more time, make sure that we're all in agreement. I've got implementation and finalization of the updated MUPUD ordinance. We've got revision of Meridian Township's sign ordinance, completion and of the form-based code ordinance changes, or ordinance implementation, I should say, and begin the process of updating the future land use map in anticipation of the 2022 master plan revision. Sound like a fair synopsis of where we're at, Commissioner Cordell?
I do have a question. The memo indicates that the form-based code would not only apply to the Grand River Avenue corridor, but the Pica areas as well. Do you think that that's a reasonable thing to include those 2, or are they going to be more specific and broken out at a later time?
So, I mean, where we are today with the ordinance in its current draft, we only built the 1 form district in Grand River Avenue, to the west of Park Lake. I think the intent was to pilot it there and then expand it in the future to some of those other areas. The peak areas, frankly, may not even be needed. They may not even need form-based code, because that's sort of the vision that the board is helping to help with us to implement in downtown Okemos already. And I know that they've been looking at that downtown Hazlet area with that same eye. So it might be worthwhile to do it eventually, just to codify it. But right now we were just looking at that stretch of Grand River west of Park Lake.
Right. I just didn't know if the different Pica areas would have their own character, that I didn't know if we wanted to, if that would be reasonable to tackle that as well, or just get the form-based code going on Grand River Avenue and seeing how that's working. I mean, you can always set a goal and then, just say, well, we'll need to continue that in the future.
Sure. Any thoughts on that from other commissioners?
I would support
McConnell?
that, in as much as that, the more you can engage broader community in those discussions earlier on, the better.
Okay. So we'll keep it more or less as it was in 2020, although we'll remove the intended completion date of April 30th, 2020 from the 2021 goal, just to give us a chance. All right, any other comments or discussion on our goals as proposed?
Do we need to put a date to 1A?
I think it would be wise for us to put a date to all of them, just to give us some idea of any milestones we'd like to hit. I liked what Commissioner Primo suggested last year, which was to give us sort of a calendar of when we wanted, a draft ordinance proposed. If we're interested in doing that again, hopefully this year without a 3-month gap, breaking us up from doing, having consistent work. I'd be fine with that. So just off the top of my head to make a proposal for us to consider, I think perhaps having the form-based code discussion wrapped up by June would be reasonable, considering that we're going to be bringing the board into it. For MUPUD, I'm going to suggest possibly end of March, since there's been a lot of progress on that and the ordinance largely exists. And I'm going to look to my committee members here, my subcommittee members, and Peter to see if there's any shock and fear about that possible date. Not seeing much. So
I think that should be workable, or at least to have the official process in terms of a public hearing scheduled.
Okay. So then I think since we're starting from 0 on the content neutral bit about the sign ordinance, perhaps, October, the end of October, and future land use map is, I think, going to be a year-long process. So I think perhaps we'll just say by the end of the year for that one. Any thoughts on any of those dates, things we should move up or back? Commissioner Cordell?
Wondering what Planner Menster thinks about that schedule, given the amount of staff and where they're stretched to.
Sorry, an email popped up and I couldn't access my mute button. Yes, well, first of all, thank you for recognizing that. If you don't know, there's now 2 people in our planning division. When I started, there were 5. Now we're down to 2. We lost one during we didn't lose her in terms of she is still alive, but we only have 2 staffers now in our planning division. So it's me and another fellow named Keith. So yeah, it's tough. It can be challenging. And then, as you probably know, I'm assigned also to the township board and other boards and commissions. So thank you for that. But also, I think that this schedule works. The soonest one would be the MUPUD, and I think I have a running start on that. And I'll need help along the way, but I think that they are accomplishable.
Okay.
Good to hear.
Excellent. Any other thoughts or comments on the schedule as proposed? All right. Seeing none for that, I think it would be prudent to have a motion from someone to adopt our goals for the year. Commissioner Primo.
I move that we adopt the goals that as stated, and that we assign the completion dates as stated.
Thank you. Any second for that? seconded by Commissioner Bloomer. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
As opposed by, was that an opposition, Commissioner Richards?
No, I said aye.
Oh, okay. There's just a little bit of a delay, sorry. All right, excellent. So the motion carries to adopt the 2021 Planning Commission goals as stated with the schedule as stated. So now, since we don't want to get too far behind on, getting groups together to work on this, I think it would be wise, per Commissioner Primo's suggestion, that we get some folks assigned to subcommittees to ensure that this work is moving along throughout the course of the year. We already have 3 members on the MUPUD subcommittee with Commissioners Primo, Cordell, and Richards. So I guess let's take a look next then at the form-based code group. And this is, by the way, in advance, we hope, of the board wishing to have a subcommittee with us. I think 3 members is a fine size for it, and I would be happy to volunteer, since I've been thinking and working on this, to be a part of that subcommittee, if there are 2 other members who would be interested in joining me in that endeavor.
Let me ask for clarification. Is this subcommittee the subcommittee that's meeting with the board subcommittee, or is this going to meet before that to present to them? Or I just misunderstood or couldn't hear exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, this is in anticipation of the board wishing to meet as a subcommittee, a joint subcommittee with the board. The ordinance is in a fairly decent state currently, and so this would be in anticipation of them wanting to meet with us.
Okay, I would be willing to serve on that.
Okay, Commissioner Trezise, anyone else? Commissioner McConnell?
I'd be willing to say that.
Okay. Anyone else wish to be on that one, or are we comfortable with those 3 representing us?
I'm definitely interested in serving on that. I feel so new to everything. I'm just kind of holding back here, but that's something that definitely interests me. I don't know if there's a limit to the number of people who can serve, though. I don't want to step on toes.
No, there's no limit. We had 3 on the other one, so I thought 3 was a fine number, but if you're interested in joining us, by all means.
Okay.
The only limit is the quorum.
Yeah. Which with 9 members now, we will not have, so that's
right.
Good. So we do have to limit it to 4, but beyond that, we should be all right.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, that sounds like a fine subcommittee for the form-based code. So then, next up is the sign ordinance. Who would like to talk about signs? Commissioner Bloomer?
I don't have any idea what it's about, but I'm willing to learn.
There was the brief version is there was a Supreme Court case that made everyone in the country have to redo their sign ordinance to be content neutral, and we haven't done it yet.
Thought I was retired. Now I got to start reading Supreme Court cases again.
In fact, you might be the perfect person for this subcommittee. We'll send the township attorney home. Anyone else wish to be a part of that subcommittee? It's going to be a fun one, it sounds like.
I'll volunteer for that.
Okay, Commissioner Shrewsbury and Commissioner Cordell.
Oh, excuse me. I just thought it would be relevant and a consideration to Commissioner Richards to let him know that he is relieved of his responsibility to the Transportation Commission.
Yes, that's true. Thank you. And that was per your conversation with Director Kieselbach.
Okay, good. Okay, so I guess that means that I should volunteer for this assignment. So put me down.
That was a not so subtle way of getting a voluntold.
I mean, that makes it. It may make a difference. It may not.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Put me down.
Okay. So it looks like we've got Commissioners Bloomer, Shrewsbury, and Richards. Anyone else interested in that? Going once, going twice? All right, look forward to hearing more about signs. All right, and then lastly, but certainly not least, it is the future land use map updates and changes. This is going to be a pretty big lift, I imagine, for those involved. Do we have any volunteers? Not to scare you off. Do we have any volunteers? Commissioner Snyder and McConnell, it looks like. Anyone else? I'm happy to join on this one as well. So I'm happy to be a part of that. And Commissioner Cordill.
I do have a question. When would you see some of these different subcommittees starting?
Well,
as of this month, or are they going to be staggered?
Yeah, I think the hope is that they're staggered insofar as we've got different timings for the goals to be done. So I would imagine that the form-based code is going to be over the next few months. The MEPUD obviously is already meeting, and it'll be over the next few months. Signed ordinance will probably be over the summer, and then the future land use map may be all year, depending on how quickly we move through it.
I think in order to handle these various things, we need to leave it up to Mr. Menzer to coordinate that and what his office can provide for these subcommittees rather than establishing goals or timelines now that would put an excessive burden on his office.
Oh, sure. Yeah. This is all just, back of the napkin
Right.
calendaring I'm doing. I'm sure Peter will help to keep us organized and keep us.
Thanks
keep
for
himself-
mentioning that. I haven't heard anything that sounds like I can't do it yet.
Okay, Commissioner Primo and then Commissioner Cordell.
I'm assuming that if we complete the work on one committee and, for instance, the committee I'm on may well be done by March. If I have a burning desire and interest in something else, there probably, as long as we hold a number at 4, I would think that there would be an option to say, hey, I'll jump in on that.
Yeah, and these are non-binding subcommittees as well, I should point out. So if you get into it and it turns out to be more than you can handle, by all means, let us know, and Commissioner Primo will take your spot. Commissioner Cordell.
Oh, that's what I was wondering about, would these be concurrent or what? Because I might be interested in the future land use map work, but while we're trying to move the MUPD forward, I wouldn't want to double dip on those meetings at this point.
Okay. Well, I think we've got a decent number for each of them. And Peter, if you wouldn't mind sending out a recap, just so we've got all that in hand, that'd be appreciated.
I've been taking notes and I will do that.
Thank you. All right, then I think we have we've talked about our goals quite a bit, and we are reasonably well prepared then to move forward. So with that said, if there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and move on to the item 7D on our agenda, which is the mixed use plan unit development ordinance review. So with that, I'll turn it over first to Peter, and then if there's any updates from the subcommittee as well, we entertain those as well. So Principal Planner Menzer.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everybody. So I don't have anything really to add on this. As you know, Mr. Hendrickson, Chair Hendrickson, took his game to the board at last week's meeting to talk about mixed-use plan unit development, and did a great job, as Bill mentioned earlier. And his it's on the tape if you do want to get a chance to go through and watch it. It would be in the video from last week's meeting. And then he created a PowerPoint presentation that was very comprehensive, that he shared with the board, that probably could even be fleshed out further, because it's a lot of information there. So I don't have anything to share. As you may or may not know, I was off for 2 weeks during the holidays, so I didn't touch the mixed use ordinance since that time. So I'm ready to get back into it. I don't want to steal your thunder, Chair Hendrickson, did you want to provide a recap of how you think things went at the board meeting?
Oh, yeah, I think things went pretty well, all things considered. We had, obviously it was February of last year that we brought it to the board for the first time. And at that meeting, there seemed to be a pretty chilly reception to the notion of form-based code. And I was pleased, I think anyway, in listening to their comments following, that it seems to be a much more interested reception to form-based code this time around. I think including the use table into that it was very helpful. So the changes that we made after the initial feedback got us to a pretty good point. So my recommendation to them, to the board, was that we meet with in a joint subcommittee, because I believe that on our own we've taken it about as far as we can go, to offer our thoughts on what the code should be. But at the end of the day, as the elected representatives of the community, they should be crafting the vision that's incorporated into the ordinance. And so that was, I think, a pretty positive discussion. Commissioner Trezise?
Yeah, I had a question. The agenda refers to this as the MUPUD that you presented it to. You're talking about form-based code. Is the agenda correct, or do we have two things going on at the same time?
No, you're right. You're right. Sorry. That's my fault.
Because I thought you were talking about the form-based code, and that makes sense to me.
You're right. So yeah, I think we'll wrap the MUPUD review up into Peter was having himself quite a Christmas.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my fault. I'll summarize that. So like I said, I haven't worked on the MUPUD. I will have a draft at a future meeting here, incorporating the comments, an actual text draft for us to get started on, and then we'll have to definitely reconvene the subcommittee for at least another meeting. Yeah, I got wrapped up in form-based code. Scott did not talk to the board about MUPUD.
Okay, well, he's welcome to do so.
I don't think we need him yet. Let's save him for when we have to.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the story on MUPUD. We will definitely, we're making good progress, and I'll get there soon.
So yeah, what I was talking about was agenda item 9A, which was the presentation to the board on form-based code. So yeah, we did do that. Like I said, I think things went pretty well. Peter's working to get the ordinance in ship shape to ship it off to the board for their review. And hopefully we'll hear back with some comments and further work for the new subcommittee to meet with them on. So again, if you are interested in hearing about it, take a look at the recording on home TV. It's relatively early, and hopefully I did us proud in the discussion.
Yeah, I thought you did a great job. I felt more momentum coming out of that meeting than I ever have on that topic. And if you do watch the presentation, our chair was very deft at handling, not committing or dodging any particular aspect of it. So I thought it went really great. And we had talked offline a couple days ago, and I think that some of these things are going to come into place. If we are able to deliver an ordinance that is high quality, then the board will be, I think, very pleased with it and much more receptive to the concept of, not to get into details, but the concept of, an expedited review process in exchange for, this great community vision for that area on Grand River. So we're on the right track.
Commissioner McConnell.
There was some discussion at the trustees meeting. I think Trustee Opsmer brought it up about a front access service drive, and I didn't follow that very well. I guess it related back to previous plans.
Well, so in the original Shaping the Avenue proposal, as we received it when we started this. I think it might have even been in the design guidelines that we initially were looking at when we talked about this ordinance. They had a whole streetscape planned out where there was a boulevard in the middle of Grand River, and with huge trees and 2 lanes on either side, and then a service drive off of Grand River with street parking in front of the buildings. And so it seemed as though he was referencing that sort of vision for the streetscape. All I told him was, if that's what you want, write it in the ordinance. That's part of the vision that comes along with creating the form-based code. Obviously we had talked about doing service drives in the back. I don't think we actually even committed to that at the end of the day in the ordinance. But that's why we need their input, right? If that's what they want out of this, then great. We just have to say it. Now, that comes with a big caveat of, I don't think we're going to be installing a boulevard down the middle of Grand River, but dare to dream. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Thanks. That was a great summary.
Yeah. All right. Seeing none. Peter, anything else on the township board meeting?
Yeah, let me go over that real quick. So the board met on the 5th, which was last week. They talked about not only Scott's presentation on the form-based code, but also proposed zoning amendment for the car dealership. So we talked about it at our last meeting. So Mark is in the process of finalizing some language for that. So we will get that scheduled for a public hearing with this group. And then for discussion, the DTN rezoning over there on Central Park Drive between Powell and Grand River and Central Park was discussed. The board didn't really land in any specific category. They do want it on for action at the next meeting. What we're planning on doing is putting it on for approval. And if they aren't satisfied with the approval, they can always come back at a future meeting and vote to deny it. There's been a lot of discussions about that rezoning. And so we'll kind of see how that goes. It's on for action at the next meeting on the 19th. So that was everything planning related. They do meet on the 19th. We'll have the DTN rezoning on for action. We'll have the CPUD amendment for Meridian Mall. And if you remember, the Planning Commission saw this a while ago now. And as we know, my memory was blanked at the holiday. So they had the bank drive-through right out front there in front of Grand River, or on Grand River, but in front of the mall. So the board shared some initial concerns with that project, and they had them off. So they didn't come at the last meeting, but they're going to be on for discussion at this next meeting on the 19th. So we'll see where the board stands on that project here soon. Thank you.
Any questions for Peter on the board? What's going on up there?
Sorry, before I forget, they did talk about, it wasn't on the agenda, but they did add medical or recreational marijuana on the agenda. The board is planning on having a study session on the 16th of February, which is not one of their regular meetings. So when that gets scheduled with info, we'll be sure to share that with you. So really the topic is they might be considering, as you know, we have medical marijuana right now. They may be considering recreational instead, or in addition to. It's not very clear. There's a lot of balls in the air on marijuana. So it's something that the discussion is going to continue, but there will be a special session on the 16th of February.
Peter, theoretically, would that come before us at some point? I'm assuming that's an ordinance change, right?
Yeah, it's not real clear. There will likely be an amendment to the zoning aspect of it. But I just don't know. We met with attorneys and administration today, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. And the more we talk about it, the more questions come up. It's definitely a complicated issue.
Sure. Thank you. Any other questions for Peter? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
The one thing I will mention that we just heard about this afternoon was there is a meeting set for between the township board and the township's boards and commissions. This is the annual meeting. This year it's on Tuesday, January 26th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Peter, I assume that everyone's invited to that before I go inviting everyone.
Yes, and I will send something formal out soon that has that info. Every year they'll have a meeting with the people from the different groups. Usually it's in the big town hall room and as many people as we can fit in there. And they talk about accomplishments and goals for the year, and it's an opportunity for all the different members to get together. So they'll have the online version of that this year and more information to come.
Yeah, I found that. Sorry.
I got a formal invite
Oh, good,
from
great.
Michelle.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was already out or not.
Excellent. Good. Looks like I see a lot of nodding heads. Did anyone not get that that needs Peter to send it out? Oh,
I'm not sure if I got that. I don't know.
I wondered if I had an opportunity to filter through the new emails. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll check Christina and let you know.
But if everyone wants to join, I imagine that it's going to be a good meeting. I took a lot out of it last year when I went with Chair Lane. Learned a lot about what else was going on in the township. So if you didn't get the email, Peter will send it to you. Otherwise, hope to see you there on the 26th.
And I'll plan on sending a reminder around just in case.
With nothing else, we'll go on to 9B, Liaison Reports. I'll get things kicked off. A couple of days before Christmas, there was a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting wherein we considered one case. And that case entailed giving or considering the request for a sign for Chipotle on the east-facing facade, which they were approved for in what I take pride in saying that it was a record-settingly short meeting. So it was excellent. They were approved for their sign. So that occurred in late December. Any other liaison reports from Planning Commission members? Commissioner McConnell?
Yeah, the Environmental Commission met on January 6th. Main topics of discussion, the green infrastructure audit and related environmental review. And I've a little bit soft pedaled that given the other ordinance work the Planning Commission is engaged in and looking to bring those thoughts into the discussion on MUPUD and form-based code. Also, the Environmental Commission is soliciting green infrastructure grants from the schools and applying for Tree City designation, and has a joint work group with the board on environmental justice. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Trezise.
Yes, both the DDA and the ECD met last week, EDC, and unfortunately I was unable to attend either meeting, but I know that the Economic Development Group has established and has awarded grants to a number of small businesses in the township to help support them during the COVID closures and things like that. A list came out the other day. And the DDA was addressing and discussing changes in the Okemos Village plans, including a reduction in square footage for commercial property, which I believe also went to the township board last week, or is going to modify their mixed-use development ordinance. So things are going on.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will point out that if you missed and don't care to watch the home TV presentation, we'll be doing it again on the 20th at the Corridor Improvement Authority. meeting, so you're welcome to come and listen in on that if you're interested in hearing their feedback as well. Or if you just want to, bring the pom-poms and be a cheering section, I'd appreciate that too. But that's on the 20th of January at 6 p.m.
Looking forward to it.
We may not have a code at the end of this, but I'll have a pretty good presentation. All right, anything else? Going once, going twice?
Maybe one quick, maybe circling back to the Village of Okemos amendments. There was some really frank discussion that I heard about the ability to rent office space in our township and building office space. And obviously lots of big questions about how long that might continue, but I'm new enough to the commission that I don't have a good sense of what our kind of commercial or office occupancy rates are, and whether they're worrisome or whether they're good or whether they're going up or going down. And if there's some point where we could get some information on that, that'd be really helpful, I think, for me at least.
Peter, maybe you could work with Director Clark in coming up with some information for us on that.
Yeah, I seem to remember Commissioner McConnell may have asked about that at the previous meeting. So let me see. I don't think we in planning have anything. I'm not sure what Director Clark has, but I will look into it and report back. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 10. Project updates, new applications, we have none. Site plans received, we have none. Site plans approved, we have none. Move on then to our final opportunity for public remarks. Once again, if you are in the Zoom meeting, you can use the raise hand feature. If you are at home, you're welcome to give us a phone call at 517-349-1232. Once again, please remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes and give us your name and address at the top of the comments for the record. With that, we'll give it a moment for anyone to raise their hand or call in.
You have no one in the attendee area who would be interested in making public comment, and there are no telephones ringing, sir.
All right, thank you very much. With that, then behind us, we'll move on to adjournment. Any motions to adjourn would be entertained at this time. Moved by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner McConnell. All right, all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the Planning Commission stands adjourned at 8:11 p.m.
Happy
Thank
New
you very
Year.
much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
you.
Good to see you.
You
Peter,
too.
Thank you.
can you do me a favor, please?
Yes, sir.
Can you send me, if you have it, a copy of the current township sign ordinance?